Tennessee Titans take on the Houston Texans in Week 6, and it's coming at you right after the bumper. What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time checking it out, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Once you subscribe, you get put in for the free Corey Davis jersey giveaway. We'll be sending it out to one lucky fan as soon as we hit that 500 sub mark, and we're getting closer every day, and we're just over 100 subs away. I appreciate all the support. But today we got two AFC South rivals facing off: the Tennessee Titans, who finished second in the division last year, and the division champion Houston Texans. So this is a game of two teams that are in different parts of their year, where the Houston Texans are coming back after firing Bill O'Brien, and Romeo Crennel is taking over that head coaching position. He's been the defensive coordinator for years past. And then we got Mike Vrabel, who is 2-2 against the Houston Texans since becoming the Tennessee Titans head coach. But we're going to break it down and see how they face off. So last week we got to see the Houston Texans get that first win of the season over the Jacksonville Jaguars, basically the weird kid in class that licks doorknobs of the division. But a win is a win, and it shows this team is not giving up on Romeo Crennel, and they're going to fight for these wins. And this is something we've seen the Houston Texans in the past. They've gone 0-3 and went to win the division and make the playoffs. So we're not writing off quite yet, and this is a trap game for the Tennessee Titans if I've ever seen one. But hopping into the running game, David Johnson coming in from the Arizona Cardinals, replacing Carlos Hyde. It is a better pass-catching back for them, but he is probably a little less between the tackles. But we're looking to see Jeffrey Simmons and Daquan Jones slow down that running game this week, with Jeffrey Simmons coming back from off that COVID list and ultimately did not play last week against the Bills. But we see David Johnson does a lot of his damage outside of the tackles. So it's going to come down to Harold Landry, Javante Clowney, and pushing him to the sidelines and getting him out of bounds before he can cut upfield. The receiving has been there. He's had a couple catches a game, but they also have Duke Johnson on the roster, who has had talks to get more involved with the offense. But we've heard that 1,000 different times. If he was with the Browns or with the Texans, we've heard it, and it's not a feature back. And he just very rarely gets on the field, but when he does, he is electric, and it's something we have to watch out for. So speaking of the receiving options, Deshaun Watson has two that he's majorly going to be looking at, and that being Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller's been the more consistent already this season, already eclipsing the 100-yard mark twice, has 3 touchdowns in 4 games. He did miss that one game due to injury, and he's had a very good career against the Tennessee Titans. On the other hand, we have Brandon Cooks, who's been very boom or bust thus far this season. He came into the year with an injury and played through it. But we saw last week him blow up and have 161 total yards and got his first touchdown of the season. But we looked the week before that where he had 0 and gave you that goose egg and on 3 targets. So he has to continue that consistency, and that's something the Tennessee Titans are looking to not allow them to do. We also have Darren Fells, who looks to see an uptick in targets and catches, hopefully, since Jordan Atkins will be out in this game. Darren Fells is more likely to fall in the end zone than anybody else in this game, I believe. And he's shown that throughout his young career. But can he get those extra receptions? We look at this season. In week 3, he didn't have any catches at all. But every other game this season, he had 2, being very consistent there, and has a couple touchdowns on there. But we don't see the yardage upside. But if he does get that 3 or 4 catch range, has 50 some odd yards and a touchdown, he's going to be a tight end one of how that plays out. And that's something we look for in fantasy football as being a tight end sleeper this week. So Malcolm Butler is going to be a busy man again this week, as we can assume. So he had a great game last week against the Buffalo Bills, but I think he kind of looked into both of those interceptions. He did obviously show what he can do after the catch, and he did have great returns on both of them. But I think the tip pass into the air off that first one kind of looked into, and that second one was just a bad pass by Josh Allen. And that's something he's known to do in his previous years. He has not shown that thus far this year, but it does show he does have it still in his repertoire. But I think Malcolm Butler is a good, not great player, and we know who he is at this point. He's been with the team a couple years now. He's basically a Shasta or a great value product. He's going to get you there, and it definitely shows you what he can do, but it's not something that we want to lean on from week to week. So the one player in the Titans secondary that's blown me away thus far this season has been Kenny Vaccaro. This is a guy that came in from the Saints a couple years back in free agency that was very good against the run, but struggled in pass coverage. But he is playing lights out in pass coverage this year, and that's something we can look forward to in the future, because if he takes that next step next to Kevin Byard, that secondary is going to take that next level. We also know Adoree Jackson will not be playing this game. We were hoping that he would come off IR this week, as it was his first week that he's eligible, but it doesn't look to be the case. He was practicing on the sideline earlier this week by himself, so hopefully next week he'll get activated, but it's still time to see, and he will, after he comes back, have to get back into shape. He's not doing any running, obviously, with the knee injury, but we are getting Christian Fulton back this week as well, who will take some of those snaps away from Chris Jackson and some of those other Titans secondary that they had to bring in since we were short-staffed this last game. So if the Houston Texans want to win this game, they're going to have to show that Deshaun Watson of pass. And that's with or without Hopkins. No excuses at this point in the season. And we saw it last week that he did have a better game. But he has to limit these turnovers, these dumb turnovers that he's had in 4 of the 5 games. And in the game where he didn't have any interceptions, he almost fumbled twice as well. So if you limit those against the Titans, that's something that they look to do and improve on in each game. And we saw it last week. If you turn over the football, they're going to milk the clock for 10 minutes on that next drive, and then you're even further in the hole. We also haven't seen that mobile Deshaun Watson thus far this season, with his top running game coming in week 1 where he only had 27 rushing yards, and that was off 6 attempts. That's something that he's not making those big plays that he has thus far, and that's something, if they're going to come back and get that second win this season, they got to make that happen. The Houston Texans defense is going to have to step up in this game as well. They come in at 31st per yards per game allowed on the rushing end, where they come in 8th on the passing end. But the opposing teams have been up the entire time, so they have no reason to pass. That passing defense is just much suspect as Red is in Among Us, and it's something they're going to have to improve as well. But they did hold the Jacksonville Jaguars under that 4 yards per carry mark last week, which was the first time they've done that all season. But the Tennessee Titans, we don't know if that matters. They've been held under that 4. So why wouldn't they just give it to the known as Derrick Henry and just allow him to eat? And that's what I expect to see this week. So the one thing this Houston Texans defense does have going for them is they're playing very well against opposing quarterbacks. They've had multiple sacks in every game this season, except for one, and that being the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. On the opposite side, the Tennessee Titans have had a very good offensive line this year, and that's something we didn't expect coming into this season. With the departure of right tackle Jack Conklin, Dennis Kelly's moved into that position, has mended it very nicely. Nate Davis coming into his own at that right guard position in year 2. Ben Jones is Ben Jones. He's played very well. Then we got Roger Saffold, who's getting older in his career, but he's playing better this year than he did last year. And then Taylor Lewan, he's actually here for the first 4 games this season. Has played very well. He has exited the lineman out multiple times with the shoulder injuries, being the right and the left. But he's played in all of the games thus far, and we look to see him back this week. But this comes down to Ryan Tannehill as well. He's played very well as getting the ball out of his hands. He's not holding on to it for too long, and he's using his feet to escape the pocket from time to time. As long as he's getting into those first and second reads very nicely, we look for him to continue this MVP pace, which is really what he's at. But we should also see Adam Humphries, who was already released back from the COVID list, back on the team this week. And Corey Davis, I'm expecting to be removed from the list later this week as well. Depending on how late in the week it is, he may or may not play. But we saw that we can mend that position as well with Khalif Raymond, and I'm assuming Cameron Batson will fill into that role as well. But A.J. Brown is still A.J. Brown. Coming into last week, I was kind of afraid of playing him in fantasy just because of the knee injury. But he is who he was, and he is playing great, and I expect him to blow up throughout the season. And I still think he could break 1,000 yards again. But we saw that touchdown upside. That wasn't a great route by A.J. Brown. I mean, it was just a fly route. He released, he got open. But that throw by Tannehill was perfect. And that's something they're going to have to continue into this week as well. So on paper, this should be an easy win for the Tennessee Titans. That's not what I'm expecting in this game, though. I believe it's going to be hard fought on both sides, but ultimately, I see the final score being 27-21. Tennessee Titans don't fall for the track game. They move through it. I expect this game to be a lot closer on game footage opposed to what the final scoreboard shows, and I expect it to come down to that final drive where Deshaun Watson just doesn't get it quite done there. But I expect a close game. Mike Vrabel moves to 3-2 against his former colleagues. But that's it for me today, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below for the free Corey Davis jersey giveaway. We're going to try something as far as the format goes, so let me know if you like it. If not, we can always move back. We're going to be lowering the music from what we did in the last video because it was a little bit too loud. But other than that, guys, shoot me those questions in the comments down below. Let me see those score predictions. That's it for me. I'm out.